The Flame Within. In a dusty coastal town where the sea roared endlessly against ragged cliffs, there lived a boy named Elias. His home was a tiny shack built from driftwood and rusted tin, shared with his mother and 3 younger siblings. His father had vanished years ago on a fishing boat that never returned, leaving behind only debts and silence. From the moment Elias could walk, he carried buckets of water from the well, sold scraps of fish at the market, and mended nets until his fingers bled. School was a distant luxury. There was a crumbling building with 1 teacher for 100 children, and Elias could only attend when hunger didn't keep him working. But even in those rare hours, something burned inside him. He found an old, water-stained book, washed up on the beach one stormy day. It was about the stars, how they guided sailors, how they burned millions of miles away, how scientists unlocked their secrets. Elias couldn't read every word, but the pictures of telescopes and galaxies lit a fire in him. He wanted to understand the universe. He wanted to be an astronomer. The town laughed. "Astronomers?" the fishermen scoffed. "We barely see the stars through the clouds here. Stay on the boats, boy. That's the only future." His mother, exhausted from sewing clothes by lamplight, whispered, "Dreams are beautiful, Elias, but we need bread today." But Elias refused to let the flame die. At 10 years old, he started teaching himself. He traded fish for borrowed books. He climbed the cliffs at night with a broken flashlight to stare at the sky, drawing constellations on scraps of paper. When the town's single library opened once a week, he walked 6 miles barefoot to sit on the floor and read until they locked the doors. By 13, tragedy struck harder. His mother fell ill. Lungs weakened from years of damp and worry. Medicine was expensive. Elias quit school entirely to work double shifts on the boats. Waves crashed over him, salt stung his eyes, and exhaustion pulled at his bones. At night, he collapsed beside his mother's bed. But even then, he kept a notebook hidden under his pillow. In stolen moments, he studied math from a tattered textbook, solved problems by moonlight, and wrote questions he longed to answer. Why do stars shine? How far is forever? The years passed like this. His siblings grew, his mother slowly recovered, but poverty clung like seaweed. At 17, Elias heard about a national science competition for young students. The prize was a full scholarship to the capital's best university. Thousands entered every year. No one from his town had ever placed. Elias had no teacher, no computer, no proper books. But he had the fire. For 6 months he worked all day and studied all night. He built a simple telescope from scavenged lenses and pipes. He memorized formulas, taught himself physics from pages he copied by hand. When storms cut the town's power for weeks, he studied by candle, shielding the flame with his cupped hands. He sent in his project, a hand-drawn map of visible stars with calculations of their distances, plus an essay about how understanding the universe could help fishermen navigate safer routes. Months later, a letter arrived. His hands shook as he opened it. He had won. First place. The town erupted in disbelief and pride. Strangers shook his hand. His mother cried tears of joy for the first time in years. But the real challenges were just beginning. The capital university was a different world. Gleaming buildings, brilliant professors, students who had attended elite schools since childhood. Elias arrived with one worn backpack, clothes that smelled of salt, and an accent that marked him as an outsider. Classmates whispered. Professors assumed he was there on charity. In his first exams, he failed several. The knowledge gaps were vast. Some nights, alone in his tiny dorm, Elias doubted everything. "You don't belong here," the voice in his head hissed. He almost quit. But he remembered the sea that took his father, the hunger that gnawed his childhood, the stars that never abandoned the sky no matter how dark the clouds. He refused to let them down. He worked harder than ever. He arrived before dawn to study in empty classrooms. He asked questions until professors sighed. He tutored himself through every failure, turning each red mark on a paper into fuel. Slowly, Impossibly, he caught up. Then he surged ahead. By his final year, Elias wasn't just passing, he was leading. His research on using star patterns for eco-friendly coastal navigation won international awards. Top observatories invited him to present. When he graduated at the top of his class, the same professors who once doubted him stood and applauded. Elias could have stayed in the capital, taken prestigious jobs abroad, lived comfortably forever. But he returned to his town. He built a small observatory on the cliffs where he once climbed as a child. He taught local kids science for free, especially the ones who worked instead of studied, the ones told their dreams were too big. Every summer, hundreds of children now look through his telescope, mouths open in wonder at the same stars that once saved him. His mother sits in the front row at every public talk, eyes shining. And on clear nights, Elias still climbs the cliffs alone, looks up, and smiles. I wasn't the smartest, he tells the children. I wasn't the luckiest. I just refused to let the fire go out. Life will try to drown you in storms, bury you in darkness, tell you 1,000 times you're not enough. But inside every one of you is a flame no wave can extinguish. Protect it, feed it, let it guide you home. And under those endless stars, the children listen and believe.